We have two speakers from VMware, Karl Childs and James Robinson. Karl Childs is a senior manager with VMware Education Services. He has over 20 years experience in IT education and certification, working with global companies such as VMware, HP, Novell, and MCI. His background is in instructional technology and training development, and he enjoys applying those skills within the IT and software industry. And we have James Robinson with us. James Robinson is a senior staff exam development manager with VMware Education Services. He has over 20 years experience in IT, working with global companies such as VMware, HP, 3Com, and AT&T. His background includes time in the field as a strategic partner engineer, as well as overseeing the development of training and certification programs for several organizations. Again, thank you for attending our conference. Attendees, this conference is being recorded. If you have a question for the speaker, please use the Q&A function to ask a question, and our speaker will ask them at the end. Now you can share your presentation, and please unmute yourself, Carl.
All right. Thank you. And thank you for this opportunity. Jim and I are happy and excited to do this and share a little bit about how we at VMware have been applying some of this experiential learning as well as experiential skills validation. So within our testing and within our certifications. I'll start out with giving a little bit of a context of our program, just so you can see how the things that we've been, as we think about experiential learning and testing, how that applies within our program. We build our program within, as we talk about credentials, we have what we call career certifications, and then we have more specialist certifications. Our career certifications are those that are aligned, there's kind of that top row there as an example, they're aligned to key job roles within the industry, aggregate job roles. So when we talk about an administrator, we know not every job title is called that, right? But we aggregate those key functions, those similar functions and tasks and skills that that an administrator may need to know, as an example, and apply that to this career certification. So it's a broader certification. It goes across a broader solution set. It's not product focused, because an administrator will be touching more than one product. It really is what that job role needs to know in order to perform that role successfully. And then almost opposite, our specialist certifications and our different badges then are more granular. They can be product specific. Our specialists build on top of our career certifications. Those give you that broad baseline, and then you may focus in, as an example, on our vSAN or our storage area network certification and product, and become really an expert and show that you're an expert within that area, as an example. And we have other more standalones as well, some of our off-premise products and things like that. Within the cloud, we have badges that help support that and show skills. So we have the two different combinations, the career with the broad, the specialist with the more narrow and product focus, and we are able to go ahead and go to the next slide. We can put that those together to create really a combination of those really show who you are as a unique individual. This slide here shows the different job roles that we do have and the different levels of certification. And then there's learning that applies and training that applies to each one of these levels. As they go from the bottom up, they increase in difficulty, they increase in scope. You can see there that operator, kind of the day two, what we call the day two operations, right? Those that are doing more of the day-to-day type of tasks and managing an infrastructure. And then the administrator as it builds up. Yeah, this actually is a perfect slide right here. This is, you can go ahead and go on. As this slide right here, as they talk about those career certifications and the more granular badges or specialist certifications, depending on what an individual earns, it begins to show their own unique learning path that they've gone on, their learning journey. So build a picture. We provide badges for every certification that we award, because there's a lot of benefit to badges, which I'll talk about here in a second. But this really provides that great resume, in a sense, of what an individual has done and shown their unique expertise. It's a way that they can even set themselves apart. And we do award, on the next slide, we showed some of the benefits, and many of you may be already familiar with some of the back end, the way that our badges work. We base them on Mozilla. standard, so that they're easy to share. When someone earns a certification, when they get past an exam and earn a credential from VMware, they get a badge that they can, within 2 clicks, have it on their social media platforms, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. There's blogs, there's in their email signatures. It's very easy to share. And when someone else clicks on that badge, they can click and see that it actually is it's validated, it's verified that it's a VMware issued badge, and also shows what that person had to do to earn the badge. So it shows the steps. It clicks in there and it shows all of the different things that they had to do. So, and it also ties into the back end to job database. So you can see even how in demand some of the skills that this person has is within the job. And this is, IT specifically. So there's a lot of kind of cool things that go along with the badges that we earn, which is why we award them. Which is really cool. We have, when we build this, I'm saying this context, we get all the point about that experiential learning and testing, but when we award our credentials and build them around, we are keyed in on what VMware is building around our key priority areas, those key solution areas that are important for our industry. And so we create certifications that are within each of these domains. Go ahead and go to the next slide. It shows, click forward. I'm not sure if I can do that, but within each one of these areas, you can see that we have different credentials and different badges where it's specific to these different job roles or products that are within these areas. These are the key areas that enable our candidates to really show their skills and become relevant in the industry. We're all about, and this is where it starts to tie back into that experiential learning and testing, it's kind of our primary goal as we build these programs, is to create individuals that are relevant in the industry. They're current, our versioning is set up to show how current they are, which makes them more relevant. They're learning the right skills and validating those skills in these areas that are relevant in the industry as companies are moving to cloud and moving to more off-prem and using subscription services and moving applications over to different platforms, and all those areas that are very important for organizations. Those that are good or certified are relevant within that area. So that's very important. That's top of mind for us, and that's what we focus on. And so we really want to make sure that these individuals are getting that right expertise. Okay. And this is actually kind of a summary slide of what I just sort of talked about, where it shows the different levels of our certifications, and they're each of the tracks there on the bottom. Each one of them, they exist within each one of these areas. Some of these are being built up still where they're new, but they apply to those areas so we can create that relevancy. Okay, go ahead, and this is again is just as we practice this, Jim, I didn't realize how much I think I talked to these slides too early, I guess, but I talked about this with a different role.
No worries.
So you go ahead and go to the next slide. Yeah, we have enabled. So as we start now, it's kind of getting the core focus of the presentation. We've talked about I've talked about with the testing and the learning. We have enabled remote proctored exams. All of us have experienced right in this last year and a half how important this is. We started to build this infrastructure up just prior to that, which was great. We were able to enable someone to take. This slide is specific to testing, but also learning and our training remotely. And it's still proctored in the case of the testing. We still have a proctor that's able to make sure that it is the candidate taking it and it's secure and they're not getting answers from someone else, right? It's proctored just like as if they were in person. We've enabled that remotely, which I think is a great benefit to think about that. And as we talked about, as I've mentioned around the learning, those different solution paths apply directly to that learning. And then the next slide here where it shows the modality, finally getting to that focus of experiential learning, we have different modalities VMware offers around and to provide that experience. Our certification exams are built on the premise that you have some hands-on experience. And so our training is built that way as well. Experience is key to really learning and being able to be relevant, in the industry. And so we provide ways because we recognize also that there's people in all sorts of different paths. Some were just coming out of school, maybe, right? And they haven't had the opportunity for real on-the-job experience. Others have years of it. And so we provide a lot of different ways and modalities to provide that, traditional classroom instruction with labs in there to get hands-on learning. We have it's called Connect Learning in here, but we have a resource that provides, there's a lot of videos, but there's also live labs. We call it Lab Connect there that you can access, where it's access to real labs and guided labs. There's instructor time that you can get remotely. Our on-demand is more self-paced, just traditional training, but more self-paced, as well as the live online. But we provide access because having that hands-on experience is key and critical for us. We recognize that as really a gatekeeper for us, validating and say, okay, you are definitely able to do this job, and so, because we're putting our name behind anyone that we certify as well. So we're making sure that they are valid. Okay, I think maybe Jim might transition here on the next slide. Oh, almost. I want to make one mention. So as I talk about the different modalities, no, you're okay. That was the perfect slide. Yeah, sorry. As I talk about the different modalities of training and how that key experience, that experiential learning is important. This is more an example of one of our more advanced classes. It's called CAL, Center for Advanced Learning. This particular one is a 2-week class that the students are invited to come in. We're doing it remotely, which is what this represents, this picture. Before 2020, we were doing it in person only, but it's a 2-week intensive class where they actually put together a design in class. They learn how to do it, they put it together, and they have to present it in front of the class. And basically the class is judge and jury in a way. They give them feedback, they knock it down, they break it, right? Whatever you say, you're doing this wrong, right? Whatever that is, it's an intense experience. But these students come out of this class with so much learning just based on that experience. I mean, this is sort of feet on the ground type of experience for these roles, and these are architects and those that are presenting to CTOs and building these infrastructures and these designs. And so this is a key learning experience for this. You can't get much more experiential than a real life kind of use case that they're doing. It's just as if they were presenting to a CTO. So, and it's a great, for our highest level certification, that's what the candidate has to do anyway for our BCDX, so which is our design expert. So it's a great practice for that. But we do, with all the different modalities of training, we try to build in experiential components for that. Go ahead and go to the next slide, because it's key. Again, as I mentioned, it's critical. This is, I mentioned the Customer Connect Learning. This one is just talks about, I probably left this one out, but it's talking about our portal in there that does have access to those live labs, different classes, the on-demand and things like that. This is just an example, a snapshot of what that portal looks like.
And Customer Connect Learning was formerly VMware Learning Zone, for those that might have seen it, might be familiar with it. It's a free as well as a subscription-based entity in itself, packed full of all kinds of content. I think the last time we counted it was over 40,000 bits of information in different media formats. So it's a great place to go.
Really good. Good. All right, this is where I kind of get excited a little bit when we think about experiential learning. So the context of our presentation, right, is within VMware training and certification. So we're thinking about in that context, and we want people to get those skills, validate those skills through testing and get certifications, right? There are different ways that candidates can prepare for that. Some of it is a little bit less experiential, what we could define as that, and more just hands-on study or just learning and study, right? And others are more hands-on. And there's a scale for that. As we talk about, if you go from the top down there, we have exam guides associated with every one of our exams. Their exam guides list the key objectives, well, all of the objectives and this is standard for anyone that's taken an exam across any IT company pretty much, but it lists all of the objectives, the skills that someone's going to have to know in order to pass the exam. It will list references that the item writers use to write those exam items, which is really key, and links to those documents in the different training. And so it's a free resource, right? It's free and they take it and they're able to use that. And that's kind of the one person sort of focusing on that studying. And then it starts to build on there. We have a hands-on lab. That's what HOL stands for, hands-on lab, where candidates and students can log into a real lab environment, have a guided document that walks them through steps and get familiar if they don't have an opportunity for a sandbox or environment or whatever to the real product. They can get it through Hands-On Lab and get into the real software and play around with it, and also follow this guide to learn different skills and do different things within it. So again, it provides that hands-on experience. Our Odyssey Hands-On Lab is a gamification of really that same thing, where you can challenge yourself and others against performing tasks in certain time limits. And performing that within that real environment. And then I talked about the training. It begins to build up on there, not only in cost, and this relates even to the last presentation for those that were on it from the last bit I was seeing, is it goes up in scale, right? And so there's some costs associated with the training, with a live real instructor and real access to labs as well, which is a real software environment. And then I'm going to leave the practices down for a minute for Jim to talk about, because this is kind of what's cool, some of the new stuff, but we have practice exams, and the final exam even is a great learning experience for anyone who's taking exams. Learn a lot when they do that. So I think the next slide, Jim, transition over to you a little bit about some of these different. This is, by the way, this is just a snapshot of those. There's that Odyssey Game Labs and some, the different resources for that hands-on learning.
Yeah, experience is always key to success, and at VMware we have a lot of different opportunities for individuals to come to us and gain that experience, whether it's through the standard modalities that Carla talked about, online or in-person class structures, or self-taught stuff. We also have lightning labs, comprehensive labs, and our gamification initiative. But we also have something that's pretty exciting too, which would be practice exams. Now we offer standard types of practice exam, but something new that we've now come up with is a practical practice exam that is the equivalent of what you would see when taking the live performance-based exam itself. And we've done that in partnership with XtremeLabs. Our first hands-on practice lab is structured around our VCAP DCV deploy certification. So if you think back to those prior slides where we showed you the 4 certification levels that we had, entry level being VCTA, intermediate being VCP, advanced being VCAP level, and the next expert being our VCDX. So this is at our VCAP level, our advanced level, and again, focused right now on the VCAP DCV data center virtualization deploy exam, and it's based on vSphere 6.7 and soon to be updated to 7.0. It's our most popular VCAP exam, and what most individuals that come to VMware to have their skills validated, it's what they strive to achieve. And so we're happy to be in partnership with XtremeLabs to do this, and we're looking forward to potentially doing some additional hands-on practice exams to give individuals even more experience, complementing where they've come from, what job role they're in, and where they might be going in the future.
Good. Perfect. Yeah, I love that. And I thank you, Jim, for talking about that performance-based exam. I think I kind of glossed over that. When we're talking about testing, we do, because that experience is so important to us, that VCAP high-level exam is exactly an emulation of this. It is, the candidate has to log into a real environment and perform a task, and we test it. If they don't, if they accomplish a task, they get points. If they don't, they don't. But it's a real software environment. We have had the case before where the candidate actually broke the exam and disconnected the connection, and because it's a real environment, and they couldn't do it anymore, and unfortunately, but because it's a real software environment. So that is really important for that experience testing along with the learning. So yeah, these practice exams are exciting.
And here's that next step, VCDX, the top level expert, and part of what we do to help gain experience or give individuals experience. And Carl, I'll let you talk about this one a little bit.
Yeah, this is great. Again, as I talked about that advanced learning class that helps prepare you for VCDX. We also allow or provide a formal structure around a one-to-one mentoring relationship that will provide some of that guidance as well and help on there. It is, if you haven't quite got it yet, right, that experience is so important for our certification levels. Someone cannot progress through a VMware certification level without that actual experience. and getting that experience through the training and even the practice exams, but also the exams themselves. And this is at that highest level, that very intimate sort of experiential. This is with the mentors, they do things like mock exams, and they stand up because at VCDX they have to defend it. It's like a PhD. They submit a full design that, if approved, they have to stand in front of a panel and defend it on that design. And so this mentor allows guidance and preparation for that, and mock designs where they have to do that and help, and so it's a real application of the skills that they've gained and learned leading up to VCDX. It's a really cool program, and they're not VMware people, by the way. These are others that have earned outside of VMware. Some are VMware employees, but others outside of VMware that have earned the certification. So, and got it. And this is an example of, we talk about how important that that certification is. And Jim, you build the exams just like this, right? Is at the lower level, we align it with the training 100%. Typically, more new learners that are coming in and need a little bit more of that support and guidance. But as you move up the levels, the exams are based on some experience. You may not get everything you need to know to pass the exam from a training, because it really does require some hands-on experience, and that is intentional on our part because of how important that is to be relevant, right, in the industry.
Yeah, most definitely. We follow an 8-stage development process, which is very similar to every other organization in the technology sphere. And we know that the entry-level individuals, they're going to be focused more on maybe in-class learning and book learning, and therefore we want to strive to have 100% alignment with the content that they're going to experience, that they're going to see in their initial dive into the technology world. So we've got that 100% alignment down there at that entry point. But as individuals progress up through our different skill levels, achieve different certifications, advance in their careers, there's just some things that you can't cover within in training content, and it has to come from that real world experience. Therefore, we've aligned ourselves appropriately with the exams that we develop at the higher levels to have that right balance of what you can pick up through self-study, through classroom learning, through online learning, as well as what you'll see in your day-to-day job. We do a nice mix there, balancing all of that out, making sure that we have a very strong and true competency model and a blueprint that we build off of for all of those exams. Great.
Okay, and then just some references and that you can learn more if you'd like to learn more about VMware.